Welcome to They Fucked Us Up, the podcast where we talk about movies from our childhoods that either traumatized us, disturbed us, stuck with us in a very significant way. Um, I am your host, Xandra. This is our co-host.
Jake. Hello, everyone. I didn't put a pause this time.
Not like the last one where you were like, what? Huh? What? Huh?
Where? What? Gone. How is everyone doing?
How
It's
are
already
you
been a year.
doing?
It's
I
already
know,
been
right?
a year.
And it's only February
It,
the 10th.
yeah, man, man. I love the face of everyone who said this is their year, and it's
Oh,
like
I know.
it's already
I
not
know.
their year, and it's only
I was
February.
like, I was like, no, I'm never
Good luck.
saying that ever again. I'm going to just say we're
We'll
gonna
get through
get through
it.
it. We'll
It's like
get
that.
through
It's
it.
like that Mountain Goat song. I'm gonna make it through this year if it kills me, and it might.
I don't know the Mountain Goat song, but it
Oh, it's
sounds
good.
like something I need to know.
Well, it's one of those songs that like whenever you are in a band or you're around musicians, you'll
Hmm.
hear them sing a bunch of songs, but you won't actually hear the original song.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
it's the same thing as just like if you go to karaoke a lot and there's some songs you never actually heard the original, you just hear it at karaoke so many
Yeah.
times.
I
I
get to.
like what is that one song? Um that song Carrie Underwood does. I dug my key into
And
the
two
sand.
hairs later,
I've heard
pretty
that
little
song
souped up
at
farm in
karaoke
the
the first
garage.
time, and I
Yeah,
never heard the original until like years later.
that's
But
funny.
that
I guess you didn't grow up in Texas, so
yeah, that's right. But it was one of my guitarist Connor. He used to do that. He used to cover that song all the time. And then I
no,
actually
yeah.
heard it, and I was like, oh, I kind of like
Well,
Connor's
it's
version
like,
better.
yeah, well, it's like Creep. I never really heard that before I heard it in karaoke like
Oh yeah.
multiple times, and then I was like, I gotta freaking listen to this whole
It's like
song.
it's like the go-to for any like well, I was gonna say
Emo
straight
kid.
I was gonna say straight guy, but no. Any
Yeah, it was like
guy
Matthew used
who's
to do.
very like insecure about their vocal
Hmm.
range, they're gonna go
Hmm.
for Creep. Even though they always
Yeah.
forget that high part. They always forget it. And then they get to it, they're like, shit, you can see their face go, oh shit.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
But so let me introduce the movie that we're doing.
Yeah. That's
We are doing Death Becomes Her. We both kind of were like, what should our next one be? And I was like, Death Becomes Her.
yes.
Because I'm obsessed with Meryl Streep at the moment.
Really?
Like,
Why? Why right now?
I don't know. I think it's because I finished watching season 4 of Only Murders in the Building. I mean, I finished that like a couple of months ago, but
Hmm.
I'm just like, let me watch all the movies again. All the weird, terrible, some of the weird. I will not watch She-Devil. That movie can go fuck itself.
I don't what is that? Shido?
Oh, so it's her. It's around the same time as this movie,
Hmm.
and it's her as this like I think she's an actress or something, but she comes across this guy who's played by Ed Begley Jr. I don't know if you know you probably know who he is, but like by look of him, he's like tall, blonde guy, but
Hmm.
he was married to like his character was married to Roseanne Barr in this movie
Okay.
and leaves Roseanne Barr to be with Meryl Streep. And they have these like weird aggressive sex scenes that I'm like, and I think, and they're supposed to be funny, but I'm like, uh, uh.
Right.
And then like Roseanne Barr is like, I'm gonna get in shape. Well, her shape is
Oh,
still Roseanne Barr, but like,
right.
I'm gonna beat the crap out of you, Roseanne Barr. Like, it feels very like Ruthless People, that movie with Bette Midler and I think it was Danny DeVito or something.
We
Where
watched that
Bet
together, didn't we? Like back when we were
a
watching all the
long time ago.
yeah,
Yeah, I
back when we were
think so.
like big business and stuff like that. We were
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
going through them. Yeah.
Yeah, where she gets like kidnapped because her husband arranged for this kidnap to
Mhm.
happen because she's fat in his opinion and like wants to marry another person, but like
Hmm.
has to declare her like missing for so long.
Hmm.
And and she just in like her captivity like gets all in shape and buff and shit. And she's like, I'm gonna fucking murder, you know. I don't know why I did the big business. They're pod people.
They're just all blending together, all
Yeah,
of
I
them.
know. I mean, in all honesty, when I was doing research for this one, I was like, oh my God, everything is just like intertwined for this movie.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well, and I noticed like, especially back then, I noticed that more with older movies around like the late 80s, early 90s, as
Hmm.
opposed to now, where like everything ties together, all these different
Yeah,
like
the six
it's like
degrees of Kevin Bacon
yeah,
bullshit
yeah.
like is even worse back then.
Oh yeah, because there's just so much, so many people. Um, like I could easily, I mean, this movie probably comes up at least 3 or 4 times in my 6 degrees of anybody. It's like one of those like
Yeah,
key components because of,
yeah.
Bruce Willis, Isabella Rossellini.
Hmm.
Like
Well,
I
and
could
it
easily.
has a cast that's like kind of all over the place
Hmm.
to a certain extent. Like Bruce Willis, you don't really expect to be in a movie with Meryl Streep, and you don't expect her to be in a movie with Goldie Hawn, and you don't expect Isabella Rossellini to be in a movie with
At
anybody.
all.
But which
So
she looks exactly like her mother and sounds like her mother, but like is not
yeah.
her mother. And I'm like, I can't, like, it's really just like mind fucky to watch to a certain extent because I loved Ingrid Bergman movies and like I watched like a ton of them for a while. And then watching this, I'm like, oh, that doesn't match.
Well, and this is around the same time. I think this is around the same time that Blue Velvet came out.
I think that was 85
Oh,
and this
was
is
it
like
that?
92.
Yes, yeah.
So I
Um,
think,
because
but
I think I don't. Okay, so I don't remember when I first saw Death Becomes Her. I'm pretty sure that I saw it really young at some point. It
same.
had, but I know that I like the first time I actually sat down and watched it and remembered it was
Hmm.
probably in high school,
Hmm.
like junior high, high school, because it was around that time that I started doing film studies.
Hmm.
And of course, this film comes up in film studies because Robert Zemeckis.
Well,
Um,
okay, so I sort of get that, but I sort of am like, okay,
I mean, this did win the Oscar for special
for
effects.
special effects, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense, I guess.
So, but I also remember one of my semesters in high school, we did a David Lynch um, like semester kind of.
Hmm.
And so, like, Blue Velvet traumatized me. That movie traumatized
I
me.
mean, it sounds like like it would. I haven't actually ever seen Blue Velvet, so
So,
I
like,
do want to see it,
I'm
but
not gonna spoil it, but there is a scene where Dustin Hoffman, no, not Dustin Hoffman, no, sorry,
no, it's what's his
the,
face? I know
the
Dennis
guy from,
Hopper
yeah, Dennis Hopper, sorry, Dennis Hopper
from from
from
Super Mario
Speed,
Brothers.
yeah, but also Speed.
Hmm.
Um, he basically is like sexually assaulting
Hmm.
Isabella recently in the most like like it
Because
is so bizarre.
he's using the like laughing gas or something, right?
Yeah. And he's like
Like while
slapping
he's doing.
her. He's slapping. It's a lot. I'm
Sorry.
sorry. If you guys have problems with yeah,
Yeah,
it's sorry,
female assault. Yeah.
but it is a lot to watch, especially younger.
Hmm.
And um it just her acting is really good in it. So like
Hmm.
I always associate Isabella Rossellini with that
Yeah.
movie. So every time I think of Death Becomes Her, I can't help but also kind of have Blue
Yeah.
Velvet in the background
Right.
because um
Yeah, I can imagine. Because I mean, her look is not very different from how she
no.
looked in that movie either. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay.
So but yeah, the first time I think it was high school. And
Hmm.
then again, like when I was starting to really be more involved in the gay community,
Hmm.
It was one of those films that everybody played at their like, let's do a film night at my place. Like the gays just love
The
doing a
gays.
death
I
becomes her
know.
night. Somebody's gonna do it at some point. So I probably have seen it like 20 times in the span of like 2 years. So I became
That's
really
funny.
familiar with this movie. So I don't
That's
remember
funny.
when I first saw it, but I know that I
Yeah,
probably, yeah.
I feel like I saw this whenever I was probably too young, like like going through channels on TV or something.
Hmm.
Because in my mind, for a long time, I conflated this movie with Practical Magic.
Really
And so
interesting.
whenever you would say that Practical Magic was your favorite movie, I was like, why? And I'd be like, but the whole like it's the hole. It's when she gets shot through the stomach. That's what
Mhm.
like kind of threw me off for a long
So
period
so
of time.
why
It's just that weird uncanny valley thing.
so why did you relate it to Practical Magic? Was
I
it just
have
another movie that you saw on
absolutely
TV?
no. Maybe I think I may have seen them like around the same time, or maybe I
Mhm.
was like flipping through channels and like watched a little bit of this and then a little bit of that and like
Mm, mm,
around the same time. I mean, there is kind of the weird like fight scenes at the end of the movie type of thing, but I don't know why I wouldn't like conflate it with Witches of Eastwick because that
yeah.
makes
The
more
aesthetic
sense to
the
me.
aesthetic makes more sense.
Yeah. Well, and the funny part is one of the mansion that they use for the like funeral home is the same mansion that they use for Witches of Eastwick.
And oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, the
And
funeral home, you mean the morgue?
no, the funeral home. Like so whenever Ernest has to go to work, like he gets called into work and you
Oh
find
yeah,
out
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's a mortician now instead
Yeah,
of a
when the actor has
yeah.
the big
Yeah.
grin on his face.
Oh my God. Freaking grin. But
So sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
good. You would think I would conflate the two of those. And then the whole pool scene kind of reminds me of that too. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know why, but anyway.
There's a lot I don't want to go too far
Hmm.
we're going far into the movie, but a lot of those scenes, a lot of the shots and that whole segment,
Hmm.
I know that it was in other movies. I know it. Like there's
Oh yeah, for
I because
sure.
that set just
Hmm.
brings back it's like it's right there in the back of my mind.
So
Like where did I see that angle?
I think it's
That
part of that mansion, that
Mhm.
same mansion, and they use that mansion for Batman and Robin.
Oh.
They used it for There Will Be Blood.
Hmm.
They used it for Phantom of the Paradise
Ah, that's what it is.
and
That's what it is.
Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy
So there is a okay.
and
Did you ever
X-Men.
watch? Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Phantom of the Paradise?
I know you've shown it to me, whether I've committed any of it to memory, I
So
don't remember.
there's a shot where the Phantom basically is spying on the bad guy producer and then
Hmm.
their Christine analog, which is Phoenix, like
Uh-huh.
basically like have like making out, having sex, and the Phantom's
Hmm.
like, no, woe is me, and then he like stabs himself, and he's like looking through it in the glass,
Hmm.
not knowing that the producer can see him on a screen, has like a security camera over
Oh,
him seeing it.
geez.
And that whole shot, the whole angle, I bet you
Hmm.
anything was one of the
Probably. It's probably the
because
same
it
one.
looks very gothic,
Yeah.
very yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bet you anything.
So, which is which is also funny because I think one of the guys that was involved with this worked with Brian De Palma.
Hmm.
So it's another one of those like 6 degrees of separation bullshit that
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? You know.
So
So
Segu as
Segu.
as Teros fucking Cole likes to say,
Segu,
Segu, eh?
yeah.
Um, so the way that the movie opens,
Hmm.
It always gets me every time because Meryl Streep's whole performance in the
Oh
beginning
my God.
with the
Yeah,
Broadway show,
I know.
and there's two sides of me where I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous, but the other
Hmm.
side of me is like, I kind of love her performance. Like, if I
Oh,
was in the audience, I would be
no.
kind of like going crazy.
Everybody I know who's ever seen this was like, can I just have that whole musical like as a musical? Like,
Where,
even though it's a terrible concept, like
yeah,
Sweet Bird of Youth turned into a musical like circa 1977 or something, I guess, is when
it's
it's
like,
supposed to
is it
take
because
place.
it's Meryl that we're like into this, or is it actually good? I
It
don't know.
it wasn't super terrible. I mean, it gets fucking weird whenever you get to the
The disco.
like the
Ooh,
disco
ooh.
part. But I mean, it's not any worse than like, so they turned All About Eve into a musical in the 70s, and it's called Applause.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't
Yeah,
know that
and
was all about it.
yeah, that was All About Eve turned into a musical. And so I was like, I think they had a thing about doing this in the 70s. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think they were making fun of that to a
Hmm.
certain extent.
The moment where it went to like it took it to that next step for me is when all the guys in the background are no 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 no, and she's like, oh, stop it, now you're
Oh,
talking like it's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's
Just more like it. Now you're talking.
oh God, it's
It's
just too much,
ridiculous.
but
It's
it's
so
amazing at the same
ridiculous.
time.
Yeah. But okay, so to get into the storyline, I guess,
Hmm.
do we just want to do like a quick synopsis of the storyline and then kind of talk about
Honestly, with this movie, it's one of those movies that goes so fast and there's so
I
much that goes on.
seriously,
So Mickey,
seriously.
so Mickey and I watched it together, and
Yeah.
it's been a while since he saw it, but he knew it
Hmm.
really well, like I did, because he also went to a lot of parties where they showed it,
Oh yeah.
and he was like, "I forgot how much is
You
in this
retain of
movie,
yeah.
how much stuff
Oh
happens
yeah,
in
of
this
like
movie."
so much stuff just like bam bam bam. And what I noted in my notes whenever I was watching it was just like this was the peak of like 80s 90s show don't tell,
Hmm.
because I feel like all the movies these days do a lot of tell,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
like to a point of like I don't need a fucking soliloquy of what's happening. Like if you don't understand what's happening, go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
Like
it's you're not using the medium of film to your advantage if you're having to
yeah.
tell if you're like do it in a play, you know.
Yeah.
It's like sorry, I don't mean to go on a
No, you're
tangent here,
good.
but we've been binging The Walking Dead, and one of
Hmm.
our main jokes is, "Oh my God, he's about to monologue, isn't he?" Like they do it so
Yeah.
much where he just starts
Yes.
monologuing. I'm like, Why? Like I don't need your internal
Hmm.
like
Dialogue with,
your
you know.
soliloquy of your emotions. Like I get it.
Yeah.
Like just move on. But
Yeah. Show it in your
they've
face.
had
Show
so
it in your
much.
acting. I don't
Your
care.
way of doing things is done. Things don't get better because you want them to. Starting right now, we have to live in the real world.
But
Like,
in this one, it's just like within the first 15 minutes of this movie, they go over 14 years because it was like 7 years
yes.
later and then 7 years later
Yeah.
again. 14
Yeah.
years have passed. It's
Yeah.
like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, but
So,
let's not jump too far.
so like the synopsis or the beginning of the movie is Helen Sharp, who is a writer,
Mhm.
is about to marry this man named Dr. Ernest, whatever his last name
Menville.
was.
Menville.
Menville.
Menville. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a plastic surgeon, and her friend from childhood is Madeline Ashton, and she is this actress who does really well, but also like she's very pretty, and she has this thing where she ends up taking Helen's boyfriends pretty easily.
So
And
she's
so
kind
she
of
did this test of her fiance, like to introduce him to Madeline, which they each call each other Mad and Hell. And I find it hilarious. But
Well,
mhm.
so they frame her as being like not a great actress, but
Yes.
but she has had some moments. Like she is
Hmm.
famous, but she's not a
Hmm.
great actress.
Hmm.
And it shows the audience finding her absolutely awful. Like people are
Yeah.
walking out, people are
Yeah.
sleeping and everything.
Yeah.
But Ernest Menfeld is just like, she's sensational.
Yeah.
Um, and then Helen's just looking at him like, what are
What
we
the
watching the
fuck are you
same thing?
talking? Yeah. What the fuck are you talking about? And then they
But
go back.
they already
Yeah.
established that there's like this rivalry between the two,
Yeah.
like because they're like, what is she wearing? Like, who is she with? Blah 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 blah. Before she
Hmm.
even comes in,
Hmm.
and so we
And
already know that.
yeah. And like, so at this point, Helen is kind of this mousy, like has mousy brown hair. Like everything that she wears is kind of like brown and muted
Awful bangs.
tones. Awful bang, awful hair in general. Like it's so freaking frizzy. And I'm like, dang, rude to the brunettes out here, but whatever. And then Madeline is this blonde, thin blonde woman who she's having some like it seems like her career when her career is kind of tanking, like her nitpicking of her looks kind of becomes more intense. And
Mhm.
so she's like sitting there being like, oh, I don't know how much longer I can keep this up.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star. I hope they never see the scars.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh my God, that was so ridiculous.
Oh, and then
And so,
she's practicing how she's gonna like
yeah,
react to the door opening. She's like, "Huh,
answer them
huh."
and like
Okay,
have
go
the
ahead.
little off the shoulder moment.
Mad Hill!
She has her assistant slash slave, personal slave.
Yeah.
It feels very much like All About Eve, that woman who
Mhm.
is Betty Davis's like personal assistant. It was just like, fuck you. But like enters in the two of them and he's like, oh, I love everything that you're in. And she's like, wait a minute, I didn't know you knew who Madeline Ashton was. And it's like a little bit.
But Madeline Ashton also knows who he is because apparently
Yeah,
he is a famous plastic surgeon, and so
yeah, in
she,
LA. And so
she makes this pass at him where she's like, "Tell me, doctor, do you think I'm starting to need you?"
yeah.
Do you think that I'm starting to need you?
Yeah, and it was
Very
like,
flirty.
girl. Oh, and the whole like opening scene with the song, she like does this like kick with her leg
Mhm.
and like she's like doing her leg and I was just like, Jesus, you're fucking flexible.
Yeah.
Like I wish I was that flexible, but geez. And then but basically like Helen's like, oh, this is what I was worried about. I was testing you.
Mhm.
Please pass the test, Ernest. And I'm like sitting there going, he's already failed the
I
test.
know.
Like
She's like twisting this napkin,
wringing this
like,
napkin in her
and she's like,
hand.
"I don't know what I would do."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, do you realize how ridiculous you sound? Cut to the
Oh,
wedding."
yeah. Yeah. And then she comes down the creepy little stairs after they've left the thing and
And
she's
she's
like twisting it
twisting
so
it.
hard
And she's
her
bleeding.
hand bleeds. And then it
Yeah.
jumps 7 years
Yeah.
to
To her,
Helen in her
heavily
apartment
overweight.
covered in cats, heavily overweight. This fat suit is the worst fat suit I have ever seen in my life.
Eating frosting out of the can.
Was it frosting or
It,
Crisco?
I don't know what it is.
I
We
feel
had a
like
debate
it's
about this.
Crisco. I feel like it's
That's
Crisco
disgusting.
and it's
If it is.
disgusting. I wouldn't be surprised though. Like it feels like you remember the women with Meg Ryan and she like eats the like butter that she's dipped in the milk and the sugar and the
Yes.
chocolate. That's really disturbing. Like it feels like that. Like I could not get that out of my head
Oh, that's
for
fucking
that
nasty.
whole scene. And she's like put on this Madeline Ashton film from the 70s, which they've like special intercut her with like a movie that Michael Caine was in.
Oh, really?
Because, yeah, that's the guy that's in it. And
Yeah.
she's just watching the scene where Madeline's killed, and she just keeps rewinding and watching the same scene. And then her landlord is trying to kick her out of her apartment and brings the cops, and they like rip her out of her apartment. But she's like, no, wait, I must see
Wait,
it
I have to
again.
see it again. And then
Like,
cut again, and she's in a
psych
uh,
hospital, like,
yeah,
but like a criminally sick psych hospital. Like it,
yeah.
I'm like, are these for criminally insane people, or is this just a state-funded like
It's
psych
that
hospital?
it's that era of filmmaking where they really don't
Heighten,
portray
yeah, people with
like
mental illness very
very
well
well.
at all. Because like she's in this ward where people are just like, there is no separation between high functioning and low functioning people. So there's people who are just like screaming in the
Mm,
background, and they're doing like group therapy out in the open for no fucking
yeah,
reason.
yeah.
And she's sitting, which is funny because the person sitting next to her is Deborah Jo Rupp, who she was the mom in that 70s show.
Oh, really? Was it? Was
Yeah.
it? I
Yeah.
didn't recognize her.
Yeah.
I
And
wasn't paying
so,
attention though, but
and like she's like, what would you like to talk about, Helen? And she goes, I'd like
I
to
like to
talk
talk
about
about Madeline
Madeline
Ash
Ashton. And
through her
everybody
teeth,
freaks out. Like they're just like, if I
suggesting that
hear
she's
it
done
one
it.
more fucking
Yeah.
time, I will lose my mind. Like
Is
they've
this where
already
we
lost
are,
it.
Helen?
Yeah. And then
7 years.
yeah, the psychiatrist like brings her into her office and is like berating her for like not having made better progress. And I was like, well, firstly, you sound like a terrible psychiatrist, and
Yeah, she sounds
secondly, she should
awful.
probably have a therapist. But
She's like, she says something like 7 years in therapy, and this is where we're at, still talking about
yeah.
Madeline Ashton. And then Helen's like, "You think I want to talk about Madeline Ashton? You think I want to talk about her? Is that what you think?" It's
Yeah,
like, I'm just like,
that was the
"You're
best.
terrible."
Yeah, I was like, this woman is terrible. Somebody needs to call the state on her. But then she says you need to
To eliminate her
just
from your mind.
eliminate her from your mind. But then she only hears the eliminate part.
Yeah,
And so she's like, yes, that is what I must do.
dude. Seven
Eliminate
years
her.
again.
Yeah, 7
Another
more
seven
years.
years.
So does that make it 21 years?
No, 14. 14. Oh,
Okay.
no, wait.
Because it's seven, then seven.
No, because no, because when she gets kicked out of her apartment, there's no 7 years there.
Okay. It's
No.
just
It's
like
it's seven.
however
She's in the
long.
psych ward, and then
I think
7
it's
years.
like 6 months or something.
6 months of
But
therapy. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
but still, it's like that's a long time
It's
to be
close
in
to
a
15
state
years.
hospital.
Close
Yeah.
to 15 years.
Yeah.
And
So, and then it's Madeline, she's living with Ernest, like they're married, they're living together. She
Ernest is a
is
severe alcoholic. Like he wakes
yes,
up in the morning drinking a
dead
Bloody Mary.
drunk, yeah, on
Yeah.
the ground. And then the woman who is her personal assistant is like, here you go. And he's like, is this an angel I see? And like grabs the Bloody Mary and
Bloody Mary.
throws
Drinks it. It's like,
the celery
ah,
out. Yeah.
more vodka.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus
Too
Christ, dude.
much tomato juice. Yeah.
No, like the way I interpret that scene is that it's already strong enough. Like he's like coughing
Hmm.
because it's so much, but he wants more vodka.
Yeah, he's like,
I'm like,
please just kill me.
kill me, yeah.
Like his whole brain is just like, please kill me. But you see Madeline first before you see Ernest, and she is not doing well, like to a certain extent, because she's just like, my looks, and she like sleeps sitting up with all these patches all over her face, and like with her
Mhm.
head in a bandage so that she doesn't get jowls and stuff like that. And I'm like, girl, you already got it, because I can see it with that terrible latex on your face. And she makes her personal assistant like wake her up in a very specific way, and she's like, I need you to do that one thing. And she's like, I only do that on Thursday. You told me I only do that on Thursdays. I think I need it every day
Every
now.
day. Oh, Madeline, you look so beautiful
Yeah.
today.
You look younger and younger every day. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Rose.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, cringe.
It is cringe. So, but then she gets an envelope
Mhm.
to Helen's books. Is it book
Yes.
signing party or just a book release party? I think it's book release party.
I think it's a book release party. And she's like, oh, she even has us like sitting in specific, like seating assignments or
Clever
something.
little witch. She's got
That
seating
clever
aside.
little witch. Yeah.
Forever
Um,
Young is the name of the book, and of course she's like snickering at it, and she's like, and forever fat,
yeah.
because
Yeah. In my head, I'm just like, my brain instantly went, forever young. I want to be forever. And then the like 30 Rock, there's an episode in 30 Rock where Jenna Maroney is like getting older and she thought she was gonna be on like one of those teen dramas as a teen. And they were
Mhm.
like, oh no, you're gonna be the mom. And she's like, forever young. I want to be forever young. And I was like, oh my God. But anyway. Um, so
They
then
also show Ernest going to work, and they kind of show how strained their relationship is.
And
Like
the fact
they
that
hate each other.
like he's no longer a surgeon anymore, he's a mortician. He has to go and like take care of bloated like film
Mhm.
producers and shit, like, and this guy has this permanent smirk on his face because
Yeah.
he was
So
fucking
yeah.
his fiance in the hot tub when he died.
So yeah, it's like it's because well they don't really say up until that point what he's doing. Like they don't
Hmm.
specify. So because it's a kind of a reveal moment where
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like you
yeah.
think he's just going to work still, but then they show oh
Hmm.
no he's
Yeah, because
his
he still
makeup
had
on
the
the dead.
beeper and stuff, and it was like, oh, he has to get there quickly, and
Mhm.
you think he's still a surgeon, and it's like, oh no, he's a mortician now. Like,
This movie does this a lot, where it does a lot of reveals, like a lot
oh
of
yeah,
suspense, but reveal a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Because they do the same thing with so right after this they go to Helen's book
Hmm.
party, and
Hmm.
they're like coming in,
Oh,
they're surveying the room like where
with the
is she?
chick that's like, oh,
Overweight. Yeah.
Dr. Menville,
Yeah.
like you did such a good job. Like, what is your secret? And he's like, spray
Mannequin paint.
paint. And I'm like, and she's like,
She's horrified. Yeah.
which is funny because that's the guy's wife at the time.
Who is that? Robert Zemeckis?
Yeah, Robert Zemeckis'
Really? That
wife
was
at
his
the
wife?
time. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. She's in Romancing the Stone too.
Oh, really?
Because she's um
I like how you say at the
Joan
time,
Wild.
like we just all have accepted that film directors can't hold a wife
I mean,
ever.
he does have a different wife. But
Most
before
film
she
directors that
was,
I
yeah,
know.
because they can't, like, it's so we didn't, did we get into this with Tim Burton? But
I don't
his
know.
whole thing with like he had his girlfriend in his movies up until he met Helena Bonham Carter, and then it was like, oh, she's in every movie until he decided to drop her for Monica Bellucci, and then she's in all of his
And now
movies
she's in
now
Beetlejuice too. Yeah.
for no fucking reason.
Oh god. It's like it's so cliche that it's almost like oh
It's
god.
terrible. It's so bad, but I don't
Anyway,
think he does that with his new wife. Anyway,
back to
um,
Death Becomes Her.
yes, Back
Uh,
to Death Becomes
so
Her.
there's this shot where they do this again. They do the reveal
Hmm.
thing where they show
Yeah,
an overweight woman who's just
from
like has
behind.
terrible
That looks
clothing, and
like
they're like,
she would be her,
yeah.
but
But then she
then,
moves aside, and it's
yeah.
oh, it's
Oh,
Goldie Hawn in all her splendor.
yeah.
Oh, looks as though she's lost a few pounds.
And this is after Madeline's like, oh, she looks like she's lost a little bit of weight. And then the
Mhm.
lady moves away and she's like, oh my God, she's lost a ton of weight.
Yeah, and she's like in the beautiful red dress, and
Red
her hair
dress
is
with
all
bright
like
red hair now that it's, she can't be the brunette anymore. She must be a redhead.
right, basically looking like Jessica Rabbit. But
A vamp, yeah,
yeah,
with not as much tits.
But you can already see kind of where Helen is going with this. Like you can already see the
Mhm.
beginnings of like her revenge plot, even though it's revealed later.
We skipped something. So
Oh
right
yeah, we did.
before this, Madeline goes to a clinic to try to get
Oh
some
yes.
work done for the party that night.
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, we can't do that. You can only have one procedure every 6 months." And she's like, "Yes, but I'm me." Like
Yeah.
basically trying to be
And
like,
the actress that plays the
she's
it's
terrible
so funny though. It's just like
with
it
her terrible
clearly
French accent.
prohibits
Yeah. And then
more than one
and
appointment.
then yeah, and then like the guy who runs the salon, his name is Chagall or something like
Yeah.
that, and I'm like, oh my God.
He keeps doing that weird thing with his eye
Oh
that
my God. I was like,
is
dude,
so distracting.
and I sit there and I'm like, so then he like makes her leave and she's talking completely normally with like an American accent. So she's putting on this French accent for no fucking reason. I did like that shot though, where they showed the person in the like
Yeah.
blood chamber, like
Yeah.
by a mirror on the door that like swings open and then kind of slowly swings back.
There's a lot of weird little what do you
Odd
call it?
angled,
Nuggets
yeah,
like just spread like, no Easter
yeah.
eggs. A lot of
Easter
little
eggs,
Easter
yeah.
eggs throughout this movie if you pay attention.
Yeah.
I'll
But
talk about it one later, but we'll get there.
mhm. But so he the guy who runs the place is like, "Oh, I can't do it because I have to work within the laws of nature."
Mhm.
But here is this card.
Mhm.
Go here
It's a
and you can get
very
more.
select group.
Yeah.
You understand.
Yeah. And I'm like, what is this accent? Like it went
Yeah.
all over the fucking shop. And also I'm sitting there going, you know this woman, you're being recruited to get more people to her, yet you haven't taken it because like it could fix whatever the fuck's going on with your eye that you just like he leaves the room just like winking like crazy
So it's
in that
interesting you
one
say that
eye.
because I interpreted that differently. I interpreted it that he also he like kind of like we're like I don't want to go too far ahead, but
Hmm.
you know how like
Hmm.
they all have issues because of the aging, but like
Oh, okay.
so I took it as he did take it, but like had some other issue that I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe I'm just like with all the wrinkles
But at the
on
same
his
time,
eyes and
yours
stuff.
makes more sense because he's not really anybody that we know
Hmm.
of. Like he's because most of the people that they show later that have
Oh
taken
yeah,
it
they're
are
all
like
like
celebrities or
celebrities.
famous people. And this
Hmm.
guy we don't really know, but
Yeah.
so I don't know.
So
But
but anyway, so he hands her this card and she's like, uh,
weirdo. And
weirdo, and then tears it up and throws it in her purse. And then after oh, during the party, like she talks to Helen and Helen's like, I would never, ever
hmm,
blame you for having taken Ernest. And
he
it's
went
like,
to you.
really, really, because your therapy earlier did not sound that way, but whatever. And then she uses the same line on Ernest, like later on, and
She's a woman,
flirting
Ernest,
with him. Yeah.
from Newark, for God's sake.
Oh, that was the best line to me. It was like, she's from Newark, for God's sake. It was like, oh my God, this is terrible. Oh, and then all the people at the party being like, how old is she? And like Meryl Streep's like
50.
50. And they're like, oh my God, what is her secret? It's like, she ain't no 50, but whatever.
Right.
Um, and then like
And then
and
this
then
is
and
where
Ernest being like, I've wasted my life, and she's like, no, she's wasted your life. Like kind of putting that nugget like
Mhm.
you shouldn't be with her anymore type of thing. And then
And
after they've
this
mhm,
is when they go home. This is when they go
mhm.
home and she's like having
Like
like a moment.
she goes to go off like to be with her pool boy, lover
Oh
boy.
yeah, because Helen no, not yet. Not yet. No. So yeah,
Yeah.
she's like having a moment, goes off, and he's already having sex with a younger woman,
Mm-hmm. And
and she's
she's
like, "How can you make me feel cheap?"
oh, yeah, there is that nugget kind of sprinkled in all throughout the place. Because, I mean, I don't know to get into it this
It's
early.
hard with this movie not to want to jump ahead because there's so
Yeah,
much that pays. There's so much planting and
like
payoff in this movie.
planting and payoff, which, yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, she does. And he kind of screams, like, you are cheap, and like people like laugh at me, laugh at
Yeah.
us, and blah, 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 blah.
Well,
And
so I guess I'll just say
she,
it. So the reason why
mhm,
I was getting myself
mhm,
mixed up because later in the movie,
mhm,
Helen is like, she's like, she's ruined your figure, blah blah blah,
mhm.
flaunting her lovers all over town, and
Oh,
Ernest is
yeah.
like, you know about that? Everybody knows about that,
Everybody knows about
and
that.
this is like one of the scene where they
Hmm.
planted that,
Planted it and paid off, yeah,
yeah,
type of thing. And then the
but he
the other
says,
part is like everybody has thought Madeline was cheap her entire life, including Helen,
right,
because there's a part in the end or closer to the end that's like, well, I never invited you over because we couldn't have, and she's like, just say it,
trash in
trash
the house.
in the house. And she's like, well, yeah, kind of like,
You're right.
jeez.
But the moment that crushes at Madeline is when he says, go find someone your own age," and then the
Oh,
rain just
yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
that's the
Oh,
moment
yeah.
that one moment always gets me.
I
I
know.
always
Like,
every
she's on the
time.
steps. There's no like thunder or anything. It's just go find someone your own age.
You go find someone your own age, Madeline.
And like it seems like such an intense rain that it starts to even kind of pull some of the latex off of her face whenever it happens.
And you can see Meryl Streep going like it
Ugh,
must have been really
she
cold.
was not she was not prepared for that. So then she's like driving away like
Recklessly, like almost
crazily,
against
and I was
traffic.
like, "Oh my God, I hate this scene." Because as like before I was medicated, I used to get into a lot of wrecks before my ADHD was medicated. So, um, you get into enough wrecks that you're like, oh my God, I could have died. Like,
Yeah.
and her doing this is like, oh my God, stop. I have
With the rain, her
trauma.
swerving, her
Yeah.
like going through her purse and like
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then so she finds like, I don't even know what she was looking for.
well,
Maybe a
she looked at her
tissue.
face. She looked at her face in the
Oh
mirror, and
yeah.
I think she
And it
was
was
yeah,
like her mascara was running, so I think she was trying to find a tissue, and she finds
yeah.
the torn up card, and so she decides to go and see what the hell this is all about.
Mhm.
And
And
I
that's when we
think
get to the most bizarre scene, but iconic.
there's so many
There's
bizarre
so
scenes.
much. There's
Um,
we got those. I mean, I know it's 1992, but very 80s looking men
Not at all, Miss Ashton. Miss Van Ruben's expecting you.
with the
mhm.
long curly hair and
Well,
the.
so one of them is actually Fabio.
Oh,
Like,
is it?
yeah, one of them is actually Fabio, like towards, I think with the pool scene, one of them is Fabio. And I was like, of course you're Fabio. Like,
The
but
weird
anyway,
dogs in the scene.
oh, those
The jackals.
Dobermans.
Are they Dobermans?
Yeah, they're Dobermans.
Um,
But they look like jackal. I think that's what jackals are kind of based off of is Doberman pinchers.
because
Because,
I every time I see that scene, I'm like, it's Anubis.
yeah, I know, right? Well, there's a lot of like Egyptian
Yeah,
iconography that goes into
mysticism.
this whole
Yeah.
scene. But before you get to that, though, Helen is practicing her, I must see Madeline. Madeline, I must
Madeline,
see Madeline.
I must speak to Madeline.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Like
that
Brit
wasn't
Spritz.
well enough. Madeline, I must speak to Madeline. That's the one.
And then you see her whole mirror covered
Oh
in
yeah,
like
with her like
never again.
die Madeline like
Yeah.
scribbles and crap
It's
like
just
that.
the overall theme with this movie is nothing is subtle. There is no
Oh yeah.
subtlety in this movie. It's just all like,
But
rah.
I mean, Robert
It's kind of
Zemeckis
amazing for
isn't
that movie.
subtle
No, he's
at
never
any
subtle.
point in his life. I think the most subtle he has ever been was Castaway, and even that is
Wilson.
yeah.
Wil-
But you got like Forrest Gump, you've got like
Back to
Polar
the Future.
Express, all the Back to the Future movies,
Yeah, he's
the
very on the
Christmas
nose, but I
Carol
love him for it.
with Jim Carrey,
Oh, God.
the
Oh,
Witches, the new Witches movie.
oh yeah, that one was good though.
Yeah.
I like that one a
But it
lot.
wasn't subtle
No,
necessarily
no,
either.
no, it's
But I
not subtle
mean,
at all.
it was very much like the books, I'm sure. So
He's very cartoony in his
yeah, yeah.
about everything he does. Very cartoony.
Well, and it's funny because a lot of the things that he pioneered in his movies ended up
Mhm.
making like Jurassic Park better by making like Indiana Jones better by, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I wish you could have parlayed that for yourself, but
I think part of the reason why this movie is such a gay like gay
it's the
iconic
over
movie.
the top, it's the over the top actresses and the cat
Yeah.
fights and
But I think that every type of gay man or gay woman
can
has
find,
can find the one thing. And for me,
yeah,
it's Isabella Rossellini. It's like that like high
I know it
priestess
is. Yeah,
witchy kind of character that comes
yeah.
in and she's wearing like barely nothing. Like
Oh
she's
my
got
God.
jewels on her tits.
She's got these like this whole like
She's got
chest necklace thing that
she's got
she's
the
not got
outrageous
anything.
accent.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's just her accent, but that's because
I
she's half
know.
Italian, half Swedish, so it's
It's
gonna be a
just
little weird.
I love everything about her performance in this
Yeah.
movie.
But
Oh,
so
this the sordid topic of coin.
oh yeah, that was funny. Yeah. Oh no, I love whenever she comes in and they show her to the room and like she sits down on the couch, but like the like Fabio
It's
type
like,
guy is
oh,
laying there
make some room for
and
our guest,
yeah, make
but
some room
don't
for
lose
my
your ass
friend
handy.
for Christ's sakes, but keep that ass handy. That was my favorite and I was like, oh my God. Um and it's intercut with so you get the scenes with Madeline and Isabella Rossellini intercut with the scenes with Helen and Ernest
Mm,
and and I noticed something in this part like whenever she's like trying to seduce Ernest she's got that red lipstick on it
mhm.
keeps getting stuck on her teeth
Oh, does
so
it?
she's got this line of red
Oh,
lipstick
really? I didn't
on her
notice that.
teeth while she's like yes and I'm like did
I
nobody
wasn't.
see this? Like, did nobody say, "Hey, let's stop this so she can wipe her teeth or put some Vaseline or
I
something"?
wasn't the kind of woman that could say
Could say,
sexual without blushing, but I can
but I
now.
can now.
Sexual.
Sexual. Sex.
And
Sex. She says it 3 times and then it's just like, ah.
and so I don't know if this is a good time for me to say I you know my type of men, like the men that
Oh
I'm
yeah.
into,
Nerdy.
like very
Nerdy.
nerdy, very and
Meek
so something about
ish.
Bruce Willis' performance in this
I could
just
see that. I
it
could see
was
that.
because he's always so like die hard, he's always so like action
Yeah.
filmy, and
Yeah.
then this he's like, oh boy, it's
Yeah.
like I
Oh
just
my. Yeah.
something about this, like I had a newfound
Hmm.
respect for Bruce Willis because of this movie, but also
Yeah.
kind of a slight crush, but only this part, only in this part
Right. Yeah.
because of his whole like
Yeah.
performance. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say on that, and I'll leave it there.
So she's talking to Isabel Rossellini and she's like and Isabel Rossellini's like you're so beautiful but you could be so much more beautiful and she's like well it is the natural law and she goes screw the
Through the
natural law.
natural law.
Well, it is the natural law.
No, screw the natural law.
I was like, oh my God. She's like, and then she brings out the box that has, it's a box in a box with an egg
Mm-hmm.
with the vial. I was just like, how many layers of this Easter egg do you have to go through? This
We gotta
Russian
keep
doll.
revealing more reveal.
I know. And then it like balances on the mirror and stuff like that. But she is the ultimate drug dealer
Yeah.
because
Because
she does this whole thing where she's like, well, I could see that they need some encouragement. So she like pricks their finger, which Meryl Streep was like, oh my God. Like,
yeah.
Ow! What are you nuts?
And every time I watch this movie, I know it's coming, but it
I
makes me
know.
jump every time because it's so loud.
I know.
Her scream is so loud.
Yeah.
And I
And
jump. We
then,
both jumped in bed. We're like,
yeah.
"Ah."
Yeah. And so she like dips the sword or the dagger that she like pricked her finger with,
It's a
and then
sword.
like,
It's a mini sword.
is it a mini? Like, yeah, it looks like a mini sword. It looks like that freaking letter opener that Memo used to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
That
I
I
mean,
was like, this is straight up a knife. This is
yeah.
straight up a knife. But
But
she like dips a little bit of it into her wound, and like her hand like gets all nice and new and
and I
fresh and
noticed
no age spots, and
how
they
bad the
both,
makeup is
oh my God, they have the
on her
same
hand.
makeup on both hand on Bruce Willis later on too.
It's so bad. Like I can see like somebody took a brown pencil and just like
Yeah.
did little dots on there and then put a little blue line on the I was like,
Yeah.
oh man,
I
I
was
never
like,
noticed that
oh, this
before.
is some terrible makeup, but whatever.
The sordid topic of coin, I'm afraid, is not so simple. The cost, you see, it's different for everyone.
Like she talks through like how much she's gonna do and how much it
The
costs
sordid
and
topic of coin,
coin. Yeah.
unfortunately, is different for everyone.
Yeah.
Well,
And
for
then
me,
she's
how
like,
much?
yeah. And then she's like, okay, well, I'm out now. And that's when she gave her the little taste of it. And then she's like, once you take this, you can only carry on your career for another 10 years of perfect beauty. And then you must retreat or retire or go into isolation. And she's like, just like one of my other clients who said, I want to be alone. Just like, oh my God. Basically saying Marlene Dietrich.
Yeah. But what I always thought was funny is that she like drinks it, and then Isabella Rossini is like, "Now a warning,
Oh yeah,
now a
now
warning."
a warning. Yeah, that was great.
Now a warning.
Now a warning?
Take care of yourself. You and your body are going to be together a long time.
So once she's going through the transformation, it's like, okay, now her ass lifts up and
Her
now her
boobs lift up.
boobs lift up. And
I'm a girl.
I know, I was like, oh
And then the
no.
guy, the weird guy with the curly hair, is like, shh, all creepy.
So I did watch a featurette on how they did some of the special effects.
Mhm,
And they had this like this rigging to try to
mhm,
like lift her boobs up to do that, but
mhm.
it kept like not doing it correctly. So do you know how they had to do it?
No, tell me.
There was a guy behind her and just he lifted him up with his hands.
What a job.
I was like,
Oh, wow.
you're the person who got to lift Meryl
Meryl
Streep's
Streep's
boobs up.
boobs. Oh my God. How did they do the butt then? Same
Uh,
thing?
I think the rigging actually worked for the butt, but maybe it kind of looks the same a little bit. So it looks like it could have just been hands with green screens,
I'm like, Meryl Streep was like, I need a gay man to do this
right?
for me.
Then it goes back to Ernest and Helen, and they're talking about,
So Madeline
still,
comes home and we see Helen leaving and almost getting her head crushed by the car.
oh my God, yeah, that was crazy. I was like, girl, but she like could
Actually, no, I'm sorry. That
scale.
was later. That was
Yeah,
later.
that's later, but
But
she
you
could
see her
scale
leaving.
the fucking fence.
Yeah.
No, she like squeaked out. She's wearing this red dress that she just like squeaks out, and I'm like, how did you not see this woman in this bright red dress? But whatever.
Bright red hair, yeah.
Yeah, and bright red hair.
So Madeline like gets changed. She's wearing like this like black leotard thing with
Hmm.
like the
With the
pink
pink
shawl.
sheer, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not a shawl, but whatever that
yeah,
is.
like it's like a shacket or something,
Hmm.
like,
And
and
so there's this confrontation because they talked we missed a scene where Ernest and Helen
yeah,
were
yeah,
talking about how they're going
she's
to murder
she's like,
Ernest
we're gonna, what was she say? Oh, we're gonna basically like knock her out, and
with
then
Narcanol
with
around each
Narcanol
glass.
on all the glasses, and I was like, how do you expect that you're not gonna get the glass? But okay,
Right.
whatever. And we're gonna take her and put her in a car and fill it with alcohol.
Oh my God, the amount of bottles. I like even three bottles, like even two
Yeah,
bottles would have been enough, but they
yeah.
filled it with
They
like
filled the
a
whole
dozen.
passenger side with bottles and
Like
like strewn it all
again,
over the
not
car.
subtle. There's just no subtlety. Like
And then take her up to the top of Mulholland Drive. And I was like, is this the only place that you know in
yeah.
LA? And they're gonna run her off and like call the police and say there's a crazy woman driving erratically and then dump her off the,
And then the what do you call them? The people that do the autopsy.
yeah,
I got
the coroner.
they're like what was
Yep.
it? Like
Her blood
one
alcohol was 0.40, and I was like, that's 40% of her blood is alcohol. What are you talking about?
she had it coming. I'm like, oh wow, this is
Yeah, I was like, that's rude, but
I
whatever.
know, right?
And then she's like, she's killing you. This would be self-defense. Like,
Yeah.
he's, and so she's just like, yes, this is how we'll do it. And he's like, okay. And then Madeline comes home and he's been drinking, so he like gets into this argument with her because she got all dressed up to go find somebody to fuck or whatever. And he's like, you're a cheap, tacky little tramp, and blah, blah, blah,
Who do you
blah.
think you're talking to?
Yeah. And then she's like, you're
Flaccid.
flaccid. And then he's like, and just, what
And
was
the
it?
moment that
Dead,
makes him snap,
just as
yeah.
dead below the waist, like your clients are. And I was like, whoa, that's
Maybe
a
maybe I should get with one of your
low
clients.
blow.
At least they'll be
Right.
getting something stiff. Oh
Yeah. And then that's when he
my
like
God.
push it. I was like, oh my God, that's disgusting, but what
And so
funny.
I don't remember how young I was when I saw this, but I can imagine that this would be the scene that if
I
I was a
remember
kid,
this. I do remember this as a kid and
it
being
is.
like, what the hell? And like, just she hits every fucking step on the
And you hear
way
every
down.
crack,
And,
every
and it goes for so long. There were not that many stairs.
yeah.
And she ends up like just there's
Yeah,
no
like a
way
broken doll
a
on the ground.
person, yeah, it was definitely like one of those safety dolls that they just dressed up like her, and
She
like
had
her
one leg
leg
like
is,
this, one leg like
yeah.
that.
Her arm is completely over her. She has no torso essentially.
But
Like,
yeah. Oh boy. I
just
think that's
every
a
time.
I think that's the first time that he does it in the movie was at this moment.
Oh yeah, I think so.
And then after that it's just
It's like
nonstop.
every, yeah, I was like, geez, oh my God.
So he
But
calls Helen and he's like, "Oh my
he
God,
instantly calls Helen and he's like, I've done it. And she's like,
what
Ernest, have
part
you
of this
called
plan?"
yeah.
Exactly which part of the plan were you unclear on?
We went over it 3 times, Ernest.
Yeah.
And then
And
she's like, have you called the police yet? And he's like, well, no. And she's like, isn't it gonna
you
look weird if you call me first, then the
Yeah.
police?
So then there's this shot where you see him in the foreground on the phone, and then
Oh,
in the background you see her corpse slowly
lifting herself
start to
up.
animate. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, this is the most Judge Doom-esque like movement that I've ever seen a woman do. I was just like, did you just take Judge Doom and like reanimate it to where it looked like a woman?
Ernest! Ernest! You pushed me down the stairs.
And then like he notices her head is completely the wrong way around on her body, and he's like, Madeline, just look at yourself. And she's like, my ass. I
I
can
can
see
see
my ass.
my ass.
And it reminds me of the like Spaceballs when he gets transported and he's like, what the hell? Why didn't nobody tell me my ass was so big? But
So basically, he's like, "You have a dislocated neck.
yeah, you need to
It's."
see a doctor. Let's go to the hospital. And I'm
She's like,
sitting there
"Well,
going, she could just have EDS. I don't
well, fix it. I don't
know.
even know where to start. Oh, for God's sake!" And she takes her own head and just like
Yeah.
turns it around,
Yeah,
and
I
he's
was
just
like,
like,
ugh. The neck thing is the thing that got me the entire like the whole time. Her
Mhm.
neck is jacked up from there on out, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much because you can see like this like bone sticking out of part of her neck.
yeah.
And it
And so
reminds me
that's
of that guy that like got hit by the bus in Beetlejuice, and he's got that like bone sticking out of
oh
his
yeah, yeah,
neck,
yeah,
and it was
yeah.
like, oh, I don't know.
The flat guy.
Yeah, he's like, and the doctor's like, you should. He's like, I don't even know what's going on here. You have no pulse. Your
Yeah,
heart is stopped. He's like, check for shock. Yeah, I'll check
yeah.
for shock.
He
He's just
says like your body temperature is under
under
80
80,
degrees,
yeah, under
and
80 degrees, and you've fractured your wrist in three places. You've shattered three vertebrae. Your body temperature's
and at
below
first,
80, and your heart stopped.
he's like checking
Yeah.
to see if
He's
like
like,
her wrist is
does it hurt when I do this? And I'm like, I mean, I can do that. It doesn't hurt. I mean, it's a little bit of pain,
yeah.
but like,
But like he bends it all the way back, and she's like,
yeah.
"No, it's
I was
fine."
like, maybe she just has EDS. I don't know. Maybe she just double jointed. Like his wife had passed out, and so he went to go looking for the doctor. And he's like, why can't I find a doctor in this room? And it's like, because they're all treating the doctor who just saw your wife because he's like had a cardiac arrest or
Passed out,
something.
yeah.
And then he comes back and he's like, where's my wife? And she's like, your wife is dead, sir. And he's like, I know, but where have you taken her? Like,
To
and
the
she's like,
morgue,
to the
sir.
morgue, sir. And he's
The
like,
morgue.
oh, she
She's gonna
won't
be
like it.
furious.
She's gonna be furious. It was
And so
like,
on his way to the morgue, there's like this really weird scene because again, this
oh my
movie's just
God,
full
the
of them.
floating
The
nuns.
floating nuns.
There's this like group of three floating nuns that are just like,
And they're like
I was like,
no,
what
they're
is
like
this?
they're like sobbing, but like with echo in their voices, like oh, and you're like, what
I'm
the
like,
fuck is
did I start watching Beetlejuice? Like, what is
yeah,
happening here?
or The
Like,
Exorcist.
yeah, it's like, what movie was this from? Because I don't know. And then he like pulls her out of the, or he goes into the morgue, which is the fanciest fucking morgue I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah,
There's like
yeah,
marble everywhere. I was like, sure, sure. Maybe because it's an LA hospital. I don't know.
yeah. And then you hear knocking, and so of course he goes
Mhm.
up to one of them, pulls her out, and
Instantly knows which one she's in, but whatever.
yeah. And what really got me was that even when he unzips her and she sits up, her body bag looks almost like fashion.
Oh yeah.
It just has this
Yeah.
kind of like look to it where it like
Yeah,
looks so
like she's gonna,
stylized.
yeah.
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 And I just remember being like, even every shot is really thought out. Every
Yeah. Yeah.
It's why it's so cartoony.
And I just sit there and I'm like, I would have hated that. Like, you couldn't have paid me enough money to act out the scene because that would have freaked me out so
To be in a body
badly.
bag.
Yes. But and then he's like,
That's
they
when he
think
says,
she's
yeah.
like, they think I'm dead, and he's like, I know. It's a sign. It's a sign that we were
It's a
meant to be
burning bush.
together. You're a burning bush. I'm a what? Like, and
But
then
then he's like, "It's a miracle," and of course,
yeah.
with the subtlety, thunder behind him,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So then he's like sneaking her home and then like sneakily going to the hardware store to get the paint that he
And
needs and the
that's when Helen comes
formaldehyde.
back, and she
Yeah.
almost gets crushed by the car because he's like in
Yeah.
such a rush.
Yeah.
He's trying to
And I was
sneak
like,
in.
and and then Helen comes back and she's like, "What are you doing with her?" Like
Every time I see
nothing
this
weird,
movie,
right? I'm
every
like,
time I see this
"Ooh."
movie, I'm like, how did they do that shot? Because it's pretty close to that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Like
don't I guess it's just a stunt driver, just
stunt
like
driver, but also a
happens to
stunt
know.
woman on the ground because it's
Yeah.
cut really well. I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
It stresses me out every time because
Hmm.
it's like this close.
It's so close. I was like, "Oh God." I always forget how close it is. But then like what was it? Helen takes off and she's in a like in a red BMW, and I was like, that
Mhm.
is the most beautiful red BMW I've ever seen in my life.
She doesn't she
But
like for somebody who's trying to sneak around, she's very
she's,
conspicuous.
yeah, I was like, well, because they have a color palette for both of them.
Hmm.
I've noticed because it's like, so Madeline, and I'm not quite sure what the thought process is behind the color palette for both of them because Helen is in all red or red and black for
Hmm.
most of after she's made her transition. So I guess
Hmm.
she's supposed to be like the sinful woman type of thing. But
Hmm.
like Madeline kind of vacillates between being like a light green
Hmm.
and a
Pink.
white
Yeah.
and a pink. Like
Hmm.
lighter colors for the most part.
Hmm.
And until the end when they're just both in black.
Hmm.
But and like she always wears pants, and Helen always wears dresses
Dresses. Hmm.
for the most part, except for the capri pants that she's wearing. But
I
even still,
guess
it's like a more feminine look than the other one. I don't know.
I guess it's because Helen is trying to level the playing field with like Madeline trying to
Yeah.
be the femme fatale kind of. I think so.
Hmm.
She's trying to have, take it as next step.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's how I think of it.
Yeah, it's just the weird white
Hmm.
for a period of time. I'm like, she's not the pure one, like at all. So I don't know why you went this way. Like the green, I kind of like the light green, and she had green shoes that was like these are great, beautiful green shoes with that like jumpsuit that she had.
Hmm.
But I was like, it's kind of weird, but whatever. Um,
So
but
this is the
anyway,
point
so
where
he's painting her to make her look like she's alive, like his patients. But he
and
mixes
his
so much formaldehyde, and I was like, she would have smelled absolutely atrocious.
yeah.
Because I remember when I had to dissect those rats in high school, and I was like, this was the worst smell I think I've ever smelled in my life.
I
Other
don't know if
than there's another smell that I know
I don't
that's
know if I've ever
worse.
I never smelled I don't know if I've ever smelled formaldehyde. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Did you
I don't
ever
know.
have to dissect anything in school?
Yeah, but I don't it's been a long time. It was like
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't, funeral
I don't know if we
homes always
used I
smell
don't know
like
if we
it to
used
me.
it.
So.
Yeah. And I've never been to a funeral home, so I don't know.
Mm. I mean, so like animals are always kept in, or parts are usually kept in formaldehyde.
Mhm.
I don't know that they do that anymore because I think it's a cancerous thing.
Mhm.
So I don't think they're allowed to do it anymore, but which is
Because I was doing
great
it in
because that
France and I
means,
don't think they did
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Oh, maybe they didn't have formaldehyde in France because they
Mhm.
probably were like, this is cancerous. Let's not put our children near it. And here
Yeah.
in America, they were like, fuck it. Like the whole hallway would smell of fucking formaldehyde. And I was like, I hate this. I hate this smell so much. But
And
anyway.
so, and this is where you see his temperament change quite drastically. Like he starts behaving like almost
Oh yeah. He's
like
like a mad
manic.
scientist.
Yeah. He's like, I gotta get the shade of your eyes perfect. Or
Mhm.
you
The
don't want people to
highlight,
stare.
Madeline. You don't want people to stare. And then she's like, "Who keeps calling?" Because Helen keeps trying to call, and he's not answering because he's in this mad scientist. I need to get the colors right. And he's like, I mustn't have all these interruptions, and like
And he
rips the
rips out the
phone out of the
phone.
wall. And I was like, that feels like me whenever I'm like hyper focusing on something. I'm getting overstimulated. But
And so he goes
um
downstairs to get more paint, and that's when Helen's there, and she's like,
What's that on your hands? Blood?
Paint.
Paint? What would you be doing that you have paint on your hands?
Painting.
Ernest, are you doing something funny with Madeline?
Define funny.
yeah, and then she like starts ripping into Madeline, like, and Madeline's upstairs listening to this happening.
yeah.
And then like the worst thing is like she's like,
And
and
she
she was
was
a
a
bad
bad actress.
actress.
And her nails go.
And the nails. And that just, I was like, oh no, I hate it. I hate it so much, the sound. And
So you
then,
tell her to come down these steps. You tell
Her to
her.
come down here, walk right up to me, and kiss me on the... Kiss you on the what?
yeah.
It's a lie.
Are you angry? Are you very angry?
Yeah. And this is the part of the movie where all of these iconic lines just go back to back to back. Because this is where you
Yeah.
could just quote. You could just
Yeah.
quote it nonstop, and we probably will.
Yeah. You brought this on yourself.
Yeah.
And so like
Or,
she's grabbed a shotgun and like
what
he's
are you
like,
two
oh
plotting
crap.
down here? Or
Yeah.
should I say, what
What
else?
else? What else are you plotting? And then she threatens Helen with the shotgun, and she's like, what are you gonna do? And she's like, you brought this on yourself. And she shoots her and she flies off and she lands in this koi pond or pool. I don't know what it
I
is.
think it's a pond.
Short pond. Yeah, it feels very like short. And she's like, what was it? She's like, she's dead. She is. These are the
Are the
moments
moments
that make life worth it.
living?
And
It
I'm
was
like, that's
stupid.
the
It
greatest.
was violent.
Yeah. Ain't nobody can play dead like me, Ernest.
Yeah. So basically
He's freaking out because
he's
she's
freaking
just
out.
killed Helen, and he's like, we gotta call the cops. And she's like, what are we gonna say to the cops? Like, we gotta bury her in Death Valley. And
And he's
she's
saying
provided
no.
all
Yeah.
of the
Yeah. He's
the
saying he's not
equipment.
going to do it. And so she counter threats. She counter
Yeah, she
threatens him
goes,
saying,
do you know what they do to soft, fat, bald Republicans in prison,
prison,
Ernest?
you'll be very
Yeah, that was wholly uncalled for.
And so they're unraveling the tarp. They're starting to
Hmm.
get everything ready. And that's when Helen starts to come out of the water, and she's
Hmm.
coughing up water, and
Water.
and there's like lily pads around her and everything.
Oh yeah,
And her
yeah.
eyes are all fucked up. Like they're all like
Yeah, and
light.
I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Like that she was in the water for so long that the pigment went out of her?
But she
Like
wasn't even there that long. She was
she
like
really was.
maybe 10
And
minutes.
there were a couple of things that I was like, what the fuck? What are
Yeah.
you like? Because even the guy in the beginning when he was supposed to be bloated, I was like, he's not very bloated unless he's like a skeleton normally, but whatever. But
But
sorry.
this is a scene where like the special effects are really off the chain,
Mhm.
off the chart, but they're also kind of distracting because I can't help but always look at the hole in her
The
stomach and be
hole.
like,
And that's what really fucked me up as a kid was the
mhm.
damn hole in her. Like it was just I was like I can't with this.
It's
Like I
perfectly
think
round. It's
yeah,
perfect.
which doesn't make any sense because a shotgun is not like it's not a fucking musket. Like it's not a
Yeah.
cannonball. Like it's not gonna blow us,
It's very, again, very cartoony because it's just perfectly round. It looks like it
Yeah.
was a cookie cutter. Just
Like at this point the movie has this like Looney Tunes quality about
mhm.
that feels very like Wile E. Coyote, like Bugs
Yeah.
Bunny energy. Like there's a part where they get like into a fight and all the shadows feel very cartoony
Yeah.
and like I forget what I wrote it down. I was like, "Oh, the shadows look like Mars Attacks." Like
Mm,
they look like the aliens from Mars Attacks like
yeah.
fighting with each other and I'm like just which is way before this is way before Mars Attacks, but
Yeah.
uh,
And so
not super off. I love the like on guard,
Bitch.
bitch.
That's,
And
that's
she
an
like
iconic line.
threatens her with a shovel, and they start having this shovel fight with each
Well,
other.
before we get to that, Ernest is like,
Oh,
"It's
she
another
finds,
miracle," and
yeah.
and
She's like,
um,
oh, she took the potion because they find this little pin that's given to each person who's taken the potion. And she's like, what date did you take the potion on? And she's like, October 26th, 1985. And I was like, why do you need to know that? Like, and
yeah.
why is it so specific? I
So
don't
now all the cards are on the
understand.
table. They just tell
Yeah.
everything.
Oh,
Uh,
and the best is I can see right through you.
I can see right through you.
And she sticks her head through like
Now, the moment that I
behind
don't
the hole.
understand, and
Hmm.
I know reading into this plot, like for plot holes is like it's pointless because it's so
Yeah.
cartoony. But I do
Yeah.
have I have to point out the fact that Ernest says, "Oh, this isn't a miracle at all," and I'm like, "What part of
No
this is not
shit.
a miracle?" Like, I
I
mean,
mean,
even if you think it's a potion,
hmm
that's still a miracle. Like,
well,
you know what
but
I'm
I think,
saying? Like,
yeah,
it's not. I know what he means. He means it's not like
yeah.
a
It's
sign
not a
from
good
God.
thing. It's
Yeah,
not a good thing from God. It's a bad thing from the
but
other
still,
place.
for him to have that
Oh,
reaction is bizarre to
this
me.
is the bad place. Like, I mean, there's a part later on where she's like, it can be a dream. And he's like, this wouldn't be a dream. It would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, this is when they start fighting with shovels,
yeah,
and it's
shovels,
iconic.
which is funny because I read somewhere that Meryl Streep accidentally like caught Goldie Hawn with the shovel whenever they were fighting. So she has like a cut on her lip, like a scar
Oh,
on her lip. And I was
oh,
like, I'm pretty sure I know exactly where that is because I think I clocked it in The First Wives Club, which is the year after this movie.
oh, really? Yeah.
And I see the scar and I'm like,
Mm.
where did she get that fucking scar from? Because I was like,
Mm.
I don't remember her having that in anything else. I was like, it's really sad that
Did it fade away over time or?
well, so I mean it's there, but it's a very light. It's like one of those like I don't know, I have a chicken pox scar, like it's just a divot in my skin,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's very light and it blends in with my skin for the most part, but like if you look close enough, you can see there's a divot in my
Mm-hmm.
skin.
Hmm.
So but it's kind of funny that I've clocked it at some point and I was like, oh, that's where she got that from. Okay. Meryl Streep gave that to her. But
Man, that would suck.
right? Yeah.
So they do this fight, and there, of course, they go ham with the special effects again because like Goldie Hawn like
Um,
smacks her on the head and like goes
oh, and
down
her
into her
neck
body.
goes back and she's like and I'm like, oh, I hate the neck. Like the neck thing is just really what gets me through this entire movie. And then she like pulls it up and it like kind of slaps back
Yeah.
at some point and I'm like, oh. And like she's got like kind of a double chin going on, but it's
Yeah.
not
Like
really.
there's
It's
like
just like
wrinkled.
the latex that is wrinkled.
And
And
then
then
the
like
Goldie Hawn like spears the
no,
thing like
it's Meryl Streep
yeah.
spears goes to spear her and it goes right through the hole and she's like, "Yes,
Yes. Oh
damn it.
no.
No." And
This is
then they're
pointless.
like,
We can't even hurt each other. We can't even inflict pain.
yeah.
You want to know about pain? I'll
Yeah.
tell you about
About
pain.
pain. Yeah.
And then she
And
lists
then they
all of
have
the
this
men.
whole like conversation of like, okay, you stole this person from me, you stole this person from me, you stole this person from me, and it was all just to try to hurt me, and I never got over that hurt, and blah 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 blah. And she's like, well, you know what hurt I didn't get over is you never invited me over
Because you
because
thought I was cheap.
cheap. And she's like, no, we just say it. Couldn't have trash in the house. Like,
And so they have this moment where they both sit down
yeah.
and Goldie Hawn is like,
Has the
all
handle
right,
going through her
yeah.
stomach. And I'm like,
I thought
oh.
you were cheap. And then Meryl Streep sits down and is like, I hurt you on purpose.
Yeah.
And then everything's fine.
And it's
All
like
of those
that's how they
years.
apologize to each other. And I'm like, really? This is like 20 something years worth of like inflicting
Yeah.
physical and emotional pain on each other.
And now it's just like
And it's just gone like that. Cool. Whatever. But
because they both
yeah,
go up they both go up to Ernest and they're like, "Oh, we've gotten that out of our systems now and we
yeah.
and she needs
We
help."
need you. We need you. Do it for old time's sake. And he's like, okay, I'll do it on one proviso that like I'm out of here once I'm done. And they're
You don't
like,
look for me, you don't
okay.
turn.
Yeah, you don't look for me, you don't bother me, you don't even think about me. And they're like, okay.
And Malin Ashton has the best response where she's just like, "I'm okay with that. Are you okay with that?" And then and Goldie Hawn's like, I don't have a problem with that. Do you have a problem with that? Not anymore. And then like
Yeah.
she has the craziest, creepiest smile I've ever seen. It's
Yeah.
just like because her eyes are like bright white at that point.
Uh-huh. Well, and then they fix them and they're in these like teddy like
And I
body
don't even want to
suits,
know how they fixed her, like how he fixed her.
right?
I don't want to know what he filled her
Well,
with.
and I sit there and I'm like, how did you fix the eyes? Like, did you just have contacts laying around? Because that's the only way I could think you could fix it.
Well, because she's like touching her stomach. She's like, "Oh, he's a genius." I'm like, "What did you put
Yeah, what'd you
in there?" And
fill
then
it in with?
what did you cover? Like
Right?
my
Yeah.
brain just went on a
Well,
trip
at
there
one
because I was like,
point, like she goes, "Oh, you're gonna need Bondo for that," and I was like, "No, no Bondo, that's fucking weird. You're not plastic. You're not a fucking Barbie doll." Which he does make them look like Barbie dolls.
yeah.
Like down to the makeup and everything. Like they got pink lips and stuff when they were like bright red before. And I was like, okay, you gave them a spring look from the winter look that they just had, but whatever. Cool.
Mhm.
Um, and
I do think they did a pretty good job. Like I made fun of the makeup on the hands earlier, but the actual makeup on them actually
mhm,
looks pretty good
mhm,
because when like going back a little bit,
mhm,
when she comes down the stairs for the first time and you see her makeup, she looks really like
mhm,
fake. Like
mhm,
because she like her cheekbones are a little overdone and everything, and she
mhm.
looks really made up. So
Yeah,
I just thought
yeah.
I clocked at this viewing where I was like that it looks pretty good. Like that's why she
Mhm,
looks so out
mhm.
there.
Yeah.
So, but at this
Um,
point, they realize they start to
they're like, oh
get.
God. Yeah, they start to like peel and stuff, and they're like, oh God, like, will he come and do touch-ups for us at least? And it's like, well, no, he said, I'm never coming back here.
But also,
Like,
he's mortal, so they're
yeah,
like, what's
he's
gonna
gonna
happen when he
die.
dies?
Yeah, eventually. And they're like, that's what we need to do. We make him never die, just
Yeah.
like us.
So
And
they
I'm
bring
like,
him to. What
yeah.
is her
Well, they
name? Did
knock
they
him
ever name
out.
her?
So her name is
Oh yeah,
Liesel
Liesel.
von something, which they Liesel von Rumen.
Ruben. But I think they
I was
just call
like,
her
okay.
Liesel.
Yeah, they
Most
just call her
yeah.
Liesel most of the time, which they changed the name for the
Which
for the
this is another plot
musical.
moment. This is another plot moment for me.
Tom, Dick,
I
and Harry.
what?
All of her bodyguards are called Tom, Dick,
Oh
and Harry.
yeah, yeah.
They're just generic men.
Hairy dick. No, okay. So, um, but like, why would she agree to this? I, like, unless he was gonna do something for her,
Probably.
like, she doesn't really know these women. They don't really like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
understand why she would, like, because this is something that she sells for like millions of dollars, we
Right.
assume, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would she just give it to this random dude because these two women were
I
like,
guess so she could like really like sell the point of like, and when you do start to become destroyed, we have somebody who can help you for the
oh,
rest of your
yeah.
life.
Mhm.
But I mean, yeah, it plot hole there doesn't make any sense
Mhm.
because it's just like why the only men you tend to give it to are celebrities because then later like not too far later on, so I'm not going too far ahead, but you've got Andy Warhol, Elvis,
Marilyn
James
Monroe.
Dean, Marilyn Monroe.
And my favorite, which is one of my favorite, this is a nugget I was talking about earlier,
Van
is
Morrison.
yeah, Jim Morrison.
Oh, Jim Morrison. I'm sorry,
Jim
Jim
Morrison,
Morrison.
and it's very subtle because like if you know, you
Who's he
know.
supposed to be with? Is that supposed to be Sharon Tate?
I don't know. I didn't think it was anybody, but it might be.
Yeah, just some random blonde.
But it's
But
just like if you know the Doors, like, and you know
mhm.
his get up, then
Yeah,
you see it,
yeah,
but like it's easy to miss if you're not paying
yeah,
attention.
yeah.
But I get it every time,
Which
like, oh, it's Jim Morrison.
which was funny because at some point he's like, "Are you done? Are you done with
Yeah,
the pool?"
yeah. That was pretty neat.
I'm done with everything. Cool, man.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
But like, so the whole scene between Isabella Rossellini and Bruce Willis is iconic, of course, because
hmm
everything with Isabella
So yeah,
Rossellini.
so they're in this pool area and like the pool has this stained glass over it that's God and Adam, like
Yeah.
God and Man, the Sistine Chapel like
Mhm.
mural, but in stained glass. And I'm like, of course it
And
is.
Liesel is swimming
He's
naked,
like,
of
I'm
course.
God, yeah. And like gets out and like puts on this equally as fabulous like
Robe.
robe that has this cape to it that I'm like, oh my God. But I did clock something in this scene though.
What?
She has a fucking coke nail.
Who does? Who does? She does?
Isabella Rossellini.
Oh yeah.
Like all of her nails have this like 1940s manicure on them, which are
hmm
short red with like there's like a little oval at the
hmm
base of them, except for one pinky, which is this long.
Oh no.
And it's all red, and I'm like, is that supposed to be a coke nail? Do you just have a coke nail? I just it threw me off on this one for some reason. I was just like, why does she have a fucking coke
Coat
nail?
now.
But so she's like trying to sell it to him to become immortal and she's like, yes, it'll and he
She
like
goes so over the top with it too. She's just like,
and like it's
"Eh."
like she gets up to the point and then he's like, okay, I'm about to take it, and then he like rationalizes it to be like, no, why would I do this? And then she like sells it to him again, and then he rationalizes himself
Mhm.
back out of it again, like, and she is just like, yes, take it. And I'm like, what is your problem, woman? You're so insane.
Live forever!
Come, I won't bite. And she like stabs him and does the whole drug
What
dealer
are you
thing of,
doing? I'm loving you.
oh yeah, what are you doing? I'm loving you. Um, and then gives him a little taste of it and like does the whole thing, and then she's like over the top. And he's like, you could have this dream, and he's like, it isn't a dream. This is a nightmare. I'll be stuck with them for the rest of my life.
And I'll have to watch everyone I know die and
Hi.
blah
Yeah.
blah
Oh, no, his first question is, what if I become bored? I was
blah.
like, that's your
Yeah,
first question?
that's your
Not
first
like,
question.
not like, why would I like, will I have to spend my entire life with Madeline and Helen?
Right.
Like,
So then there's
so,
this whole chase throughout the thing where
mhm.
you get to see like the crowd, the people that the guests,
Yeah, all
and
the
he's just like,
celebrities. That Chagall guy, he's like the MC for the party, and
mhm,
he's like, okay, everybody, remember, when you go into hiding, you're not supposed to show up again. And we know
you know
who
who you
we
are,
are, and it's
and
like
pointing at
Elvis.
Elvis.
I'm like, oh my God, this is so
That was a
dorky.
really funny like subtle
Yeah,
joke.
yeah.
Um,
And then
that was a moment where he was a little more subtle,
yeah,
but
yeah. But then
um,
like they chase him up onto the roof and he gets up on these gargoyles and he slips and falls, but he has the
and the
potion.
gutter is like
Swinging,
swinging.
yeah. And she's like,
He's
and they're
hanging by
like,
his overalls, which I'm like, that
yeah,
would not have to hold
his
his weight.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, his suspenders, yeah.
Take it or you'll die.
Yeah, drink it. We need you. And he's like, nope, that was the wrong thing to say to me because I don't want to be around you guys. So he like
Well, he almost
drops it.
does.
He almost does until she says, we need you.
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck this nonsense. I'm not doing that. And
Mhm.
so he throws the vial and he's like, I'll take my chances, I'll die,
Yeah.
and that'll be fine with me. So he like drops off into the stained glass into the pool.
Which
This
should have
drop
killed him.
would have killed him if
Yeah.
this was not a movie, but he survives, and then he's like, "Are you gonna be done Like Van Morrison's like, "Are you gonna be done
Jim
soon?"
Morrison.
I'm sorry, Jim. Why do I keep doing
Saying
that?
Van
Jim Morrison.
Morrison.
Yeah, Jim Morrison is like, "You gonna be done soon?" And he's like, "Yes, I'm done with everything."
That was pretty neat.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. And then he like runs off and like steals James Dean's car.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, okay, so this is the moment where Liesel is not wearing the greatest thing ever. I do not like what she's wearing
Yeah,
at this point.
whatever the fuck
That
his
turban,
outfit is.
that
Yeah.
turban
I
and that
mean, I
wig
don't
thing.
mind the
It's all
turban,
right.
but
It's all right.
yeah, but it's definitely like you should have just kept the cape thing
Right.
with that little,
Because everything else was
standout.
iconic, and that one was a little too costumey, but
Yeah.
it's whatever.
But
Um,
so is it implied that he gets away
yeah,
from
yeah.
them
He
and
gets
then
away.
like they find him 37 years later and he's dead,
Yeah.
like at his funeral,
Mhm.
and he's like, in his own way, he learned how to have eternal life through all of you people here, and they're like, what the fuck? And
Blah blah blah
yeah,
blah.
and eternal youth through his children and grandchildren. I'm like, who did he have children with? Like,
Yeah.
who? What?
Well, so basically, the service starts with the priest saying, in the words of Ernest Menville, life starts at 50. Is
Oh yeah,
like basically
that's
saying
right.
that like whatever that year was, because
Well,
I'm assuming he
yeah,
was 50 at that time.
yeah, because they were
That's when he
supposed
started
to
his
be
life over.
50. Yeah.
Hmm.
And he like founded like a women's institute and like an AA chapter.
Sure, yeah. And so, but basically what they're showing is the two women in the back, and they're
Yeah,
completely veiled. Can't see
because
their
they
face.
are
A
not doing
mess.
well.
Yeah.
They have not found anybody to fix them like he would have. And like they've been using like weird fillers and stuff that are just like peeling off and their eyebrows are insane looking. And they're
And that's
like,
why they leave
where's
yeah.
my spray paint? I don't know. Why is it in my purse? Because you
Why
have
do
the
I have
bigger
to carry
purse.
everything?
Why do I have to carry everything?
How
And
did you
like
lose
she,
a giant
yeah,
bottle of
can
paint?
of, yeah. She's like, well, if I and like it was on the stairs, and so they slip on this paint can
Mhm.
and fall down the stairs in the most comical again, hitting every single
Every step.
step on the way
And then
down
falling to
and
pieces.
shatter into pieces, but they're still alive. Or alive, sentient. And
And
like the
fin
head spins around next to Madeline's, Helen's head spins around next to Madeline's, and she sounds like a hubcap.
yeah.
I'm like, why does her head sound like a hubcap? Like,
And the
and
movie
she,
ends with the
I
lamest line of the movie.
don't remember what the lame is.
Do you remember where you parked the car?
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's like, oh God, it's so
It's terrible. It's
stupid.
so bad. But
Oh
I
God.
mean, it's a perfectly cliched ending to a perfectly
Yeah.
ridiculous
Yeah.
movie.
It's just it's I don't know. I think if I could take if there's one thing about this movie I was not a fan of, it was the ending. I
So there was supposed to be a different ending to
Mhm.
that. And they thought it was too happy,
Oh really?
which I was like, what? So it's like he ran off and he met this like bartender who was supposed to be played by Tracy Ullman.
Oh really?
Yeah,
That's
and
oh Tracy.
yeah, and they were supposed to have like faked his death and like gotten married and had kids and stuff like that. And they thought that was too much of a happy ending.
Yeah, no, that would have been yeah. I like elements of the
Hmm.
ending. I think that I like the fact that it's as dark as it is.
Hmm.
I just think it's a little I don't know
Dorky, like just
dorky and
the
a little
lines are a little.
it's on the border of moralistic. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. I mean,
A little.
so like the writer, I'm sure the writers are like, I don't know how to end this other than
Yeah.
with a moral, I guess. But
Mhm.
like one of the writers, like he was a TV writer in the like 60s and 70s.
Mhm.
So I think that's where the ending came from.
Yeah,
One of
it
one of
definitely
the
gives me
writers.
that.
The
Gives me
other
like,
writer was a writer for Jurassic Park and Mission Impossible and like the last couple of Indiana Jones movies
hmm.
and Secret Window, that
Like
Johnny Depp movie.
oh yeah, the Stephen King. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And Panic Room.
Huh. Okay. So
So I
okay,
think
so
most
you
of the
said
story came from
those
that
two
guy.
writers?
Yeah, there were two
Okay,
writers. And I
okay.
think most of the story came from that guy. And I think the ending probably came from the other guy
Gotcha. Hmm.
because it doesn't quite fit with the rest of the movie, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It's
But I mean, how else do you end the movie other than
yeah.
he died? Like,
I can't I can't suggest anything better, but yeah.
yeah.
I just remember every time I watched this movie, I was always
Yeah,
like,
the ending's kind of weird. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. But I
Um,
mean, it kind of falls into those like 80s traps of like everything's great until after the climax and you're like, I could probably stop the movie.
did you ever see the movie Existence? Did you ever see that?
I don't know, I don't
It's
think
a
so.
David Cronenberg film. It's basically
Mm.
about because you know how Cronenberg always has like body horror and
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's basically about video games and you connect yourself into it's like
Oh,
pre-Matrix,
okay. Okay. Hmm.
but
Kind of like
the
Ready
way the
Player
movie
One or something type of thing.
but it's very Matrix before Matrix,
Hmm.
but it
Hmm.
has like Ian Holm in it. It's got
Of course.
Jude Law in it. It's got a lot of random people.
Hmm.
Really weird, really bizarre movie because it's David Cronenberg. But the way
Yeah.
it ends where it takes a moralistic standpoint where
Hmm.
they get out of it and then they just these two players that were playing decide to kill everybody because they're against this like new future of video gaming. And this one guy's like, "Wait, are we still in the video game?" And then it cuts to black and it's like, and you're just like, "Oh my God, you
I'm
ruined the whole
surprised
movie."
I'm surprised they haven't remade that movie, to be
It's
honest.
good. I mean, I like it,
Like,
but that
yeah.
ending ruined it for me. Like, I was like, come on, no. That's how I feel about this ending. It's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't ruin the movie for me. I still
Yeah.
love Death Becomes Her,
Yeah.
but it's just like,
It's a very strange ending, but
it's such a tone
I
change.
can't really, yeah, it feels like, especially the whole eulogy through the funeral is just like, what 1960s father said, like,
Yeah.
it just feels kind of weird, but,
So this movie
um,
to me is iconic. I mean, obviously iconic.
yeah,
Love
yeah.
it. Love it every
Well,
time I see it.
and what's funny is I was like earlier, I was looking up, uh, I'm planning out some things that I want to like design for the next couple of months
Mhm.
for Redbubble and TeePublic, and I was looking up just like queer cult films, and it
Mhm.
was like this was on every list.
Oh yeah.
It was like this Rocky Horror, Priscilla, and I was just like, well, at least those make sense because they actually have queer people in them. So
Right.
it kind of doesn't, other than it's campy as fuck, you know.
It's one of those it's one of those things where like you look at lists of music that like queer
Hmm.
people are into and it's
Hmm.
like
Lady
all these
Gaga
non
and Queen,
yeah
yeah.
and
But
it's
then
like
there's like weird ones like Florence and the Machine and Lana Del Rey, and it's
Bjork.
like, yeah, yeah. Oh, there were some weird ones on that list, on these different lists, and I was like,
But I get it though. I get it because like this movie
yeah,
is so over the top and so
yeah,
it's hard not to just
yeah,
fanboy about it.
yeah. It's very much in that vein of like Mommy Dearest, where you're
Yeah.
like, it's so over the top. It's good though.
But yeah, I definitely would not recommend for children.
It, they'd have to be of a certain age. I think I was like 10 or 12
Hmm.
probably when I came across this on TV. And I think if I had been in high school, I think I probably could have dealt with it more, but just at that age, I was like, what the fuck is this? And the
It gets
body horror is like,
it's very on par with like Roger Rabbit as far as like
yeah.
there because like there's so much of it that is fine, and then there's little moments that are just
Yeah. Well, and
because
there's little moments that are just a little too adult
yeah,
for a kids movie. Like Roger Rabbit had that in my mind. And I talked about
it's
it in our Roger Rabbit episode, but
it's
like,
also the uncanny valleyness of it. It's a little
yeah.
it's a little too close, but also not.
But
It's
I
like
feel like that's like all of Robert Zemeckis' films.
yeah.
Like it's all
Did
just in that
who did Robert
uncanny.
who did Roger Rabbit? Do you know?
He did.
Oh, he did.
Robert
Okay, that yeah,
Zemeckis did
that's what
that.
I thought. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
He did all the Back to the Futures. He
Hmm.
did Forrest Gump. He did Contact.
Oh,
He
did he
did,
do Contact? Oh, okay.
yeah, he did. He did Welcome to Marwin. He did that Beowulf movie
Mm,
that
yeah,
was a little off.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Romancing the Stone, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Castaway, Polar
I
Express.
remember us watching Romancing the Stone. I don't remember it that well though. Like I kind
I
of
love Romancing the Stone, but
we
but
I have to
in all
rewatch it, but
honesty, that was his first movie that actually made money. Otherwise, he was just like he was he did a couple of films that didn't make any money. He did like 1941 back in the early 80s. That
hmm
was like a National Lampoon type movie,
hmm
and it did not make any money. And then he did another one which also didn't make any money. And so then he was working with like Steven Spielberg and stuff like that because he went to school with George Lucas,
Mm.
and he also went to school with the guy who wrote Apocalypse Now.
Oh yeah.
So he kind of got into that whole like
That
Scorsese, yeah,
that bro
that
gang of
whole,
film
yeah,
directors. Yeah.
yeah, that
Mhm.
Spielberg, Lucas, Scorsese, Coppola, like whole group. So he's like on the fringes, but he's still like, I'm here.
Mhm.
And he's like Spielberg's best little buddy.
I mean, he is an iconic director. I mean, his films have really
Well,
changed cinema. But
yeah, yeah. And like he's pioneered a lot of special effects that have gone on to make better special
and
effects.
then in his older age, just like Tim Burton, he's done some movies that are just horrendous.
Goes
Like
off
Polar
into
Express
weird shit.
is
But see, people
horrendous.
love that movie, and
I think
I
it's
can't
horrendous.
stand it because the animation fucking pisses me off.
It's so bad.
It's
I'm
so
sorry.
bad, but
I'm
it was
sorry.
like one of the first like mocap
You know, he
like
also did that movie
movies.
Hugo. Do you remember that
No, he
movie?
didn't do that.
Oh, he
He didn't
didn't?
do that. That was Scorsese, actually.
Okay, because we were working at the movie theater when that came out, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
remember just being like, "What is this?
There were a
What
couple of
is
them. Oh, he
this?"
he did the most. Well, okay, so there were two Pinocchio movies that came out in the same year. There was one that Guillermo del Toro did that was
Mhm,
more like the actual Pinocchio story, and
mhm.
then there was one for Disney that Robert Zemeckis did. Guess who played Geppetto?
I don't know.
Tom Hanks,
Oh, of course. Oh,
because he loves him some Tom Hanks.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't mind Tom Hanks, but I know you don't like Tom Hanks. So
I just
you
don't.
don't really like you're kind of ambivalent to
Ambivalent.
him.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like everybody's always like, "Oh, it's
Yeah.
America's favorite uncle," and I'm just over here like, eh.
Fucking kind of. Yeah. But the cinematographer on this movie did Jurassic Park, Apollo 13, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Hook, some of The Mandalorian, some of the Book of Boba Fett, um, the
And
Parent
who are we
Trap
talking
movie
about?
from the
The
90s, the
cinematographer?
cinematographer.
Okay.
Yeah. The Parent Trap from the 90s with Lindsay Lohan,
Mm-hmm.
Flubber.
Although I forgot about Flubber.
He did Big Business.
Oh, he did. Mm.
Yeah. And he did like the first three Halloween movies
Okay.
and The Thing.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And all the Back to the Future movies.
Okay, so Robert Zemeckis has worked with him before, then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like Zemeckis, Spielberg, trying to think of other ones. He did that weird Flintstones movie in the early 90s.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Which I actually don't mind, but
Yeah.
I like the second one better, surprisingly, and everybody hates that one. So
I don't know if I've ever seen either of them.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not too bad. I mean, the first one has the B-52s in it,
Yeah, I know about
which I
that.
think is funny. Um,
All right, so
but
what do you want to do next time?
I don't know. I think I had kind of marked something that I was like, oh, this is a weird one to do, but I can't remember. Oh, well, that might be later on in the year, but Witches of Eastwick,
That's
because
a good
that
one.
cherry pit scene really messed with my head, and I should not have seen that young.
He wants to get inside me like a
Like a
man.
man.
Yeah, they could do that one, but yeah,
Unless you have other suggestions.
we'll talk about it. And
Yeah,
if listeners, if you have any
yeah.
suggestions, we'd love to hear it.
Let us know what you
Let us
think
know
in
what
the
movie
comments. Yeah.
what movie you saw too young
Traumatized you as a
traumatized you.
child. But that's it for this episode. Just remember to like, follow, subscribe, whatever in all the places that you see podcasts. In YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Just look for They Fucked Us Up Pod. And
Maybe TikTok if it comes back, but right
maybe
now
TikTok. Well, I thought it's back.
I didn't. I haven't been able to download it, so I don't.
Oh, okay. Weird. Okay. Well, Instagram Reels.
There you go.
But we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.